Today we are going to be making a choice-based game using the new FlowChart controller feature in Construct 3. So there's a couple of things you need to have ready to go before anything else. The first is a background. Because the background will be changing potentially, I did set my background up as a sprite instead of as the typical tiled background. So I found on itch.io, I found this awesome scary backgrounds. I just searched spooky. So I just have it set up so it has a couple different backgrounds ready to go. So I can make it change backgrounds throughout the story. The other thing you want to have ready is going to be, on this animation we want to set speed to 0. So I have a couple backgrounds ready. The other two things are two different text boxes. I have choice 1 and choice 2 here. I've made them fairly large. You can see how large the space around it is. You might even make them larger depending on how long your text is going to be. And then we need one final text box, and this is going to be the text of your story. So for this, I've been using Courier New as the font because I think it looks kind of creepy and neat. I'm going to go white because all of the backgrounds I'm using are really dark. And then I am going to set the size to, I've been doing size 28. Modify this to make it whatever you want. And then I'm going to go nice and big. And I would like to center and center the text. So this text box here is where the bulk of the story is going to happen. And then choice 1 and choice 2 down here are where our choices will go for selection. Now, this game is going to take advantage of the new flowcharts. So we need to add a flowchart by coming down here to flowcharts. We'll right click and say add a flowchart. I'm going to call this just game, so that way I know what it is. If we double click, it opens up this blank space for us to add all of the nodes of the flowchart. You can see we have a ton of space to work in. I'm going to start all the way over here to the left so I can build. Initially, we'll double click and right click add our very first node. A node is a choice inside of the game. You will have quite a few of them potentially. You can name them using caption. I'm going to call this maybe entry hall or whatever I want to make sure it's super descriptive. In here, I can add a ton of options. Right now, it only has one option, and this one is labeled as the start node because this is where the game will start. So my first option, I'm actually going to set this up the same every time. Option 1, so indexing starts at 0. So the first thing we have, 0, is going to be the text of the story. And then we'll type the text of the story in here. The next thing, number 1, is going to be option 1, or we called it choice 1. I'm going to call this choice 1. We're going to add a choice 2. And we will add a result box. And into each of these, we're going to put something. So in the text, we're going to start our story. So in this case, I'm going to say it was a dark and stormy night. Please make your text better. I'm just doing a goofy example text. I didn't know which way to go. Which door should I open? Something like that. Whatever you want. And then choice 1 is going to be my first choice. Choice 1 is on the left, so I'll put left in there. Choice 2 is on the right. Here you'll notice I can say it was a dark and stormy night. I didn't know which way to go. If I want this to come down to a new line, if I hold shift and hit enter, it brings it down to a new line, which will look really good in the text box. Left, right, and then this value I'm going to put to 0 right now because there are no major outcomes of this version or of this decision. Another thing we can do is tag down here. We aren't going to worry about tags yet. Now, we're going to have two options. We go left, we go right. I'm going to start by copying and pasting this. When I hit Control V, I get a little cursor there. When I click, it pastes it in. So I'm going to drag left up to here. this node, I'm going to come in recaption. I'm going to label this as left, and I will change my text. So I might do something like, the door opened behind the door was a room. Should I search the chest or the closet? Okay, again, really silly, not actually very important stuff. And then here we change, so we have chest, we've got closet. And as for result, this is where you're going to put things like if you lose health, if you want to change the background. So like in this one, I might set the result to, because we're in the room with the, behind the door was a bedroom. So we're in the bedroom, so I might have the result be bedroom. So that way I can set some other stuff up. We're just setting up the absolute basics, and we'll get interesting in just a second. And then I'm going to also set up the node by copying and pasting for right. Again, I'm going to come into caption, change it to right. And let's say this one, I believe I had, well, let's look in this right. We have frame 0 is like a entryway, a hallway, and a bedroom. Okay, so we'll say behind the door was another hallway. What should I do now? And we can say go back or go forward. And we'll call this, the results in this one will be hallway. And we're going to say right, comes down here. And then you can see we can keep going, adding. So like maybe for going back, we'll connect it back to in. And we can change the way that these go so it doesn't cross later. And if you want to undo something you do, right click on it and you can unlink. So now that we have a very absolute bare bones node started, let's add some code to make this work. The first thing we want to add is actually an object in the layout. So we'll add it like we add objects, and we're going to add the flowchart controller. This literally does what it says. It controls the flowchart. So first thing we want to do is we want to say when the game starts. So on start of layout, we want to start a flowchart. We want to start the flowchart of game. That means it's going to start the flowchart. It's exactly as it says. When we start this flowchart, we want 0 to be the code that shows up in the text box. We want 1 to show up in choice 1 and 2 to show up in choice 2. The reason we're keeping this the same all the way across is that will make it super easy to do the code in here. So we're going to add an event that says, let's set text. Say this will be on any node entered. So whenever we go into one of these nodes, that's what we call these boxes. Whenever we go into one of these nodes, we want to set some text. So we're going to say the first text should be set to, we're going to go flowchart controller dot output value, and this is going to be 0. 0. Because it's pulling the output value from index 0. So that is going to be index 0 right here. It's going to pull this output value. So let's hit play and just see what it looks like. So right now, look at that. We've got our text from the first one. We don't have anything else yet. So let's keep adding. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to go to choice 1. We're going to set text to flowchart controller dot output value. and this will be 1 because choice 1 is next to 1. And then we're going to do the same thing for choice 2. We're going to set the text to flowchart controller dot output value. Excuse me, 2. Now when we come in here, you'll see we have our options, but nothing happens when we click on anything. So let's set up our buttons now. Left and right, we want stuff to happen. So back in our layout, we do need to add the mouse as an input, so that way we can click on things. And we will say on object clicked. So when we click on choice 1, we want something to happen. I gotta double check over here. It's always helpful to have a reference, even I use reference. So on the object clicked, we're gonna go to output 1, which means it's going to follow that output of 1 to wherever it goes. Where is it? Hold on. Go to next node. There it is. Sorry. We're going to add action, flowchart controller, go to next node based on output 1. So now when we click on the left button, it's going to go to output 1, follow where it goes. It's going to come up here and fill in using 0, 1, and 2, which we already set up. When we click on choice 2, we can set it up to go to output 2 instead. It will follow whatever option number 2 is. So let's test it out. When I click on left, it takes us left. When I click here, nothing happens because there's nowhere to go. That kind of sets up your most basic parts of the game. But when we came into the bedroom, it didn't look different. It still looked like that initial starting location. So this is where we're going to start adding some results. So I'm actually going to make a group called results because this will be easier for my brain to track the different results. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to say if we're going to go compare output value, if output number 3 is equal to bedroom. So again, that's in here. If output number 3 is equal to bedroom, and I did do it with a lowercase, so I have to make sure this is lowercase. If output 3 is equal to bedroom, then I want something to happen. In this case, I want to change to the bedroom one, which is number 2. I want to change the animation frame to number 2. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to say sprite, set animation, set frame to number 2. I can do the same thing, except for instead of bedroom, I'll say hallway. We'll come into game and double check our spelling down here, hallway, hallway, all lowercase. We'll set animation frame to 1. And then because we can go backwards here, I want this result, to be entry hall. So that way, here, I will add another one that says on output 3 equals entry hall, set animation frame to 0. So now hopefully we'll get a little bit of change. That worked to the bedroom. Let's go to the right. When I go back, you can see it changes the background for me. Lots of interesting stuff is happening now. Now, I know one of the things you were interested in having was a jump scare. So let's say in our game, when I open up the closet, something hops out at me. So I'm going to add a new node. I'm going to copy this, add a new node up here for chest, and then add another node for closet. And I do recommend always kind of pulling up higher to give yourselves as much space as possible. So these are still going to be in the bedroom, so I don't want that to change at all. And this one is going to be, I open the chest and it's empty. And then I can go closet or leave. And I'll say if I leave, I'm going to go back to the entry hall so we can kind of zoom out, drag this back here. Leave. One of the cool things here, you can change the way it goes between locations. Leave here, we can set this up to, instead of being a straight line, we can pathfind. So it will go around instead of covering. Same with this entry. If I go down to right, I just know that it's out of number 1, output 1, go back, I'll pathfind, so it goes around. That way, it just keeps things a little neater. Anyway, so we leave, we can open the closet. Opening the closet takes us here. We'll pathfind that guy. Looks like that's the best path it can. There we go. Give it a little space to pathfind. Okay. Now, when I open the closet, maybe there's no text. We'll leave this as a 0. I'll tell you how we can do 0 in just a minute. We can put this as run or hide, your choice. Or you could put this as 0, and our result will still be bedroom, but maybe we can add a tag now of clown. This is going to show you how to use the tag system. So we got some cool stuff to do now for our closet. In here, let's add some more result stuff. So if we have on a tag node entered, so if we enter the node that has the tag, let's say clown, then we want to have the clown sprite jump out at us. So I'm going to make a clown sprite. It's literally just going to be a box because I don't feel like drawing a clown. I'll do a little clown. There we go. That's my stunning art. Let's make it white just so you can see it better. I'm going to put the clown over here to the side, so that way it's out of my way, and I can have it jump in later. Now, we wanted the text to disappear, so we are going to say, when we enter the node clown, we will make the sprite to go to the center of the screen. So to figure out where the center of the screen is, I'm just going to take the position here. I'm going to say set sprite to set position. So now that sprite will jump into the middle of the screen. And we'll just add another one that says on FlowChart controller on node clown exited. We'll move the clown back to where it starts, just to get it out of the way. So the clown's over here right now. So we'll say when we leave the clown node, we're going to just set the clown's position to -341 and 159. So it goes in and out of the screen. The other thing we want to do, which we'll come back up here for, we're going to add an event that says when the output value is equal to 0 for index 1, Then we are going to set the text to blank. Right? We don't want it to say anything. I'm going to put this up here with that. Let's see how it goes. We'll hit play. We're going to go to the left, open the chest. It's empty. I'm going to leave, come back in, and open the closet. There's the clown! Ah! And then I can run or hide. And then you just keep setting stuff up. I'm just going to prove to you that when we leave the clown will disappear. Let's see, I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to say when we run, we'll go back to the main hallway. Obviously, make this more interesting. This is the most simplistic possible story. It gets the job done for practice, but okay. We're going to put run as coming back to the main node. Oh, it doesn't want to connect. Sometimes this can be a little finicky. It can be really helpful to start from this end. I say as I am incapable of doing it. Go away. Oh, come on. Maybe we just go back into the... I really want to go back to the main hallway. We'll go back to the bedroom, and we will set that one to Pathfind to go around. Okay, let's double check it one more time, and then we should be good. We'll go to the left, open the closet, the clown jumps out to scare us. We run, the clown disappears. Come back to the closet, run, chest. All that good stuff. You can always, like once the clown chases you, I would maybe not give them the option to go backwards anymore. Make the clown be a forward movement only, so that way things can happen. You can make it crazy. You can make it scary. Make other stuff jump out at you. Make the clown show up again in a note or two. Maybe add 1 or 2 places, and then the clown shows up again and kills you, and then you can send it to a game over screen. Tons of options there. You can do any of these where you have set the text to 0. You can make it so it doesn't show up. You just use the exact same code here. You would just say, if output 1 has a value of 0, we set the choice 1 to 0, choice 1 to nothing. You see how we kind of do that? That makes it so that anytime you put in a 0, it gives you nothing. And that really is how I would use this to make a game. It's not a ton of code. Like, this is really the only code you need for your game. You will continue to add these as you continue to create all sorts of things. You'll add more results as you add more results in the game. You can add more tags to make things happen. If you want, you can even add, instead of 4 options here, you can have a 5th option and have maybe call, instead of result, you could call this room. And then you can have a 5th option that is result. Maybe you give your player a life. And if their lives get a fright count, and if they get too many frights, they die. There are so many options with this. Look at how much space you have to build your branching story. All right, if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, good luck recording or creating your game.